So it is a great joy to be here with the father of modern branding, the award-winning pioneer and brilliant brain, David. And I'm particularly grateful to David for making time to record this. It's very early in the morning in London. It is very late in the evening for David, and I know this is going to be going out to our brilliant community in Singapore. So three different time zones being captured here, a challenge in itself. But what we wanted to talk about today, David, is to share some of your insights and ideas around the theme of the Marketing Society's conferences this year. So these are Changemakers conferences, an audience full of people who are marketeers who mean business, who want to make a difference, who want to make an impact with what they do. But of course, the theme is challenge, because there are plenty of challenges out there for today's modern CMO and marketing leader. But there's also an opportunity for us to continue to challenge the status quo and to challenge our organizations to grow better, to do better, and to succeed. And what I wanted to talk to you, David, about today is a little bit of context around that. You have seen so much across the years, what's changed, what stays the same in marketing. And I thought I'd start with a key question for us all, just to remind us, for you, why does marketing still matter so much in business? What is its role? What's so important about marketing? Do you still believe it has an important role in business?
Yeah, I think so. I think that the the fundamentals of branding have not changed. And I think that if you look back into history, well, it's been like 30 years ago, but there was a period of time in the 80s that the short-termism had a big day. They were driven by the BCG growth share matrix that said all you had to do is increase market share no matter how risky it was to a brand. There was big data came in with a scanner data, and they had tests to show that that what worked was price out promotions. And so the whole 80s were sort of the era of short-termism. And at the end, it just failed. It did not generate growth. It destroyed profits. It destroyed brands. So they were looking for for some way out, and that way out was brand equity. And when brand equity came in, it changed what marketing did. Instead of being a middle management function you could delegate to agencies because it was just building awareness and image, it now encompassed brand loyalty. It really now affected all elements of the uh, of the organization. Customer insight, segmentation became more important. And so we got a seat at the executive table. The CMO, the VP of marketing, for the first time was part of strategy. And
Mm.
so today we have to remember that we are the organizational elements that protects and builds and leverages brand equity. And brand is an asset. It's not just about a vehicle to create a marketing program that'll work. And so now I fear that with big data, with um, customer analytics, and with AI, and with uh, the ability to know sales the next day from e-commerce, that we're in danger of doing that same thing. We now have something called demand marketing that's now competing with brand marketing. And so we're in danger of going into another period where short-termism is sort of thriving more than it
Mm.
should. And so we have to remember that we're stewards of the brand. We've got to create a brand. We've got to create brand pillars. Uh, and we have to learn how to, use that brand and the brand pillars to drive strategy. And 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 that's sort of our role. And so, we got to, accept the
Very
challenge.
important. Very important. And that's a brilliant challenge for everyone there to remind us that being brand stewards is critical for the business, that not being afraid to own the long term and linking everything back and giving the business the clarity about why this matters for business success. Yeah, very important point in time. So what advice would you give? You know, that there are all these challenges, all these changes going on for marketing leaders today. If you were, leading marketing in a great role in Asia, if you were doing something, what would you do? What would you urge people to focus in on right now?
Well, one thing I would make sure everybody realize the importance of disruptive innovation uh, and in differentiation in general. We've
Hmm.
known for half a century that the only way to grow is to engage in disruptive innovation, to create something that's really different and really better. In sort of the most robust research findings in all of marketing history is the fact that we know what makes a new product success. It's always been true, is
Mm,
differentiation. And it's providing a reason for people to buy and a reason for people to know to read about it. And the reality is that disruptive innovation has gone berserk. I mean, there's if you look at any measure, the number of companies reaching 1 billion, the number of new startups, the number of patents, every measure you can think of is just off the charts. So the frequency of disruptive innovation and the level of impact is so much greater than it was even 10 years ago. And so it's really important for organizations to look for ways to be leaders, to
mm,
become the ones that do disruptive innovation. And what we know is that the role of brands is so important. You look at these books on disruptive innovation, they don't even mention branding. You
great
need
point.
branding. You need to position the disruptive innovation. You need to become the exemplar, the one that leads that. You have to become the thought leader, the market leader, the source of energy. And then you have to find a way to scale that disruptive innovation. And you have to find ways to build barriers to others. And you do that by continuously innovating. You do that by branding the innovation. I call it a branded differentiator
Mm,
because you want to own that point of differentiation going forward and you want to manage it. You want to keep it fresh. You want to keep it uh, always advancing. And so and to do that, it means you really have to marshal the what you have to work with. Customer insight, for example, segmentation, um, and 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 you have to understand competitors, what competitors are doing in the marketplace. You have to understand the technology behind the industry and where it's going and getting the timing right to engage in disruptive innovation. So I would think that should be a really prime element on the desk of the CMO, and it should not be something that the tech officer, the R&D officer, or the engineering officer does in isolation. The
mm.
the the CFO should be a part of the team.
So making sure the CMO is in there with anything that's being done when it comes to disruptive innovation and product building to make sure we're linking it back into the customer insight, the consumer insight, to make sure that the owning of the brand as part of it is a huge opportunity. But you also mentioned another challenge there, David, the need to make sure we are constantly informed about what's happening in the market, what's going on, and everything there, which is, of course, a huge challenge we talk about a lot within the marketing society, how together we can learn fast and make sure we're keeping abreast of it all. So there's a lot going on, the need to keep that insight going. But I love your focus back on, brand management and the belief in the brand. Is there anything amidst the challenges that everybody faces? Is there anything that you think is making you optimistic about the role of marketing right now and what marketeers can do?
Well, I think so because if you look at this surge in disruptive innovation, you see success after success after success, and most of them are supported by a strong brand and a strong brand building program. And um, and I'd say a second big challenge is the fact that it's so tough to communicate these days because of information overload, because of
Mhm.
widespread skepticism, because of the lack of trust. And uh, and I see a lot of people figuring out how to break through. And there's three things. You've got to find a way to gain attention, whether it's being very humorous, very emotional, very intriguing. You got to find a way to break through. And then once you get processing, you got to figure out how to use taglines that can kind of summarize and build your asset as communication goes forward. And you got to explore new ways to communicate. And some of them are old, but they've been on the shelf. But things like events, having events like
Hmm.
Snyder Electric has a big event that contest to find the company that best addresses sustainability by using their products. And they have 300 entrants. They come to New York and seven winners. Uh, and that's a way to build a brand that doesn't involve advertising. It's a totally different way. And then you have sponsorships like the FedEx Cup or others that provide a vehicle to give your brand visibility, to give your brand an image lift just by association, and it doesn't involve advertising. And then you have brand communities, which is the ultimate brand loyalty device, and you start, instead of talking at people, you talk with them and as colleagues, and that's the ultimate in brand building. And you see many firms that have pulled that off, that really have strong communities. And so I see people doing all these things right, and I think there is a lot of hope that brand equity is not going to go through what it did in the 80s.
No, I think there's plenty of reasons to be optimistic and keep the hope there. And there's some great examples of what's possible. And when you think about the brand overall and marketing versus just advertising, so the very the old ideas that are the new ideas as well, going back to events and experiences and sponsorships. What are the vehicles? I guess the challenge is, what are the vehicles in which you can connect? And there's definitely a huge opportunity there with communities and what people are doing. I love the talking with people rather than talking at people challenge as well. Lots to be optimistic about what's possible and what's within our power if we think about how to build for the long term. And you know, after all this time, when you've been studying this and looking at this for so many years, what do you still love about marketing as a profession? What do you still admire? Why is it, if you were to talk to my daughter who is vaguely thinking about going into marketing right now, any reasons why she should, or anything you feel good about being involved in brands and marketing?
Oh, it's just such a fun, interesting area. I mean, it's just so interesting to to try to understand how you can develop a set of perceptions from sometimes with nothing, or how can you change people's perceptions and relationships to an entity like a brand. Uh, and it involves communication. It involves understanding the audience, understanding and creating a lot of content that is meaningful. It's just I've ever since I was in college, I thought that was really a fascinating area, and I still do. And there's a lot of people that come up to me and said that they discovered branding and it changed their life, and they just love what they do now. And you have these meetings, and the CEO come in planning to spend 20 minutes. They end up spending 4 hours because it's so fun next to the other things he has to do or she has to do.
Yeah, the most interesting part and the most fun and fascinating, and partly fascinating because it continues to change and challenge, but so helpful for us to have people who are observing it and thinking about it in the way in which you do. So thank you so much, David, for joining us here today to talk about the challenges, the changes, and why marketing matters and brands are more important than ever. Thank you so much for your time today.
Well, thanks for having me.